fortune could be in your pocket right now. Let's begin our journey with a coin that might look ordinary at first glance, but believe me, the story behind it is anything but ordinary. The year is 1967. America is in the middle of the Vietnam War. Cultural change is sweeping across the nation, and in your pocket, a 1967 Kennedy half-dollar. Now, most people think of the Kennedy half-dollar as just another piece of everyday change, but the truth is, the 1967 edition is a fascinating piece of American history. First, remember that this coin was struck just 3 years after President John F. Kennedy's tragic assassination. The nation was still mourning, and this half-dollar became not just money, but a tribute to a fallen leader. The front of the coin carries Kennedy's profile with the word Liberty arching above his head, and the back proudly displays the presidential seal, an eagle holding arrows and an olive branch, a symbol of both strength and peace. Here's where things get very interesting. The 1967 Kennedy half-dollar was made during a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning away from silver. Up until 1964, half-dollars were struck in 90% silver, but from 1965 to 1970, including this 1967 piece, the mint reduced the silver content to 40%. This means your coin still contains real silver, and that makes it far more desirable to collectors today than the copper nickel-clad coins that came later. But the true magic lies not just in the silver. It lies in condition and in hidden errors that most people overlook. You said this coin is in extra fine condition, and that alone sets it apart from the millions of worn examples still floating around. In extra fine condition, you can still see sharp detail in Kennedy's hair, the lettering remains crisp, and the eagle on the reverse still has clear lines in its wings and feathers. This is the kind of detail serious collectors look for, and the better the condition, the higher the value climbs. Now let's talk numbers, because this is where the wow factor kicks in. A typical circulated 1967 Kennedy half-dollar might bring just a few dollars above its silver value, maybe $10 to $15. But in extra fine condition like this, the price starts to climb. In auctions, collectors have paid hundreds of dollars just for beautiful examples. Step up to uncirculated condition, and now we're talking about values pushing into the thousands. And if you're lucky enough to find a rare mint error on your 1967 coin, like a double die obverse where the letters "In God We Trust" are doubled, or a striking error where the planchet wasn't aligned correctly, these can shoot the value into the stratosphere. One error 1967 half-dollar has sold for more than $45,000 because of its unique double die features. But that's not the end of the story. Collectors are chasing after what are called SMS coin special mint set editions, made only in 1967. These were struck with extra care, sharper detail, and a satiny finish. In top condition, some of these have been known to reach well over $150,000 in private sales. And here's the kicker: if you had one of these coins in a flawless, high-grade proof-like condition, the kind of coin that grading companies would label Ms. 68 or higher, we're talking jaw-dropping values of $450,000 and beyond. Yes, nearly $500,000 for a single Kennedy half-dollar minted in 1967. Think about that for a moment. A coin that many people still treat as pocket change could, under the right conditions, be worth more than most people's retirement savings. That's why collectors are obsessed with finding these gems. Every tiny detail matters. The sharpness of the strike, the brilliance of the surfaces, and the presence of even the slightest error. So the next time you come across a 1967 Kennedy half-dollar, don't just toss it aside. Study it carefully. Check the details, look for doubling, examine the luster, because hidden in that little piece of silver might be a treasure worth more than a brand new luxury car, or even a house. Now, moving on, let's talk about a Kennedy half-dollar that may not look special at first, but don't be fooled, it carries hidden value that could absolutely shock you. I'm talking about the 1985 Kennedy half-dollar. Picture this. It's the mid-1980s. The Cold War is still going strong, Ronald Reagan is in the White House, and the American economy is shifting rapidly. In your pocket, jingling along with quarters and dimes, sits a 1985 Kennedy half-dollar. At first glance, most people saw it as nothing more than 50 cents, but collectors today know better. The 1985 Kennedy half-dollar was struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. But here's a crucial detail. None of them were released directly to circulation in large numbers. That's right, starting in the early 1980s, the mint actually produced half-dollars mostly for collectors, not for everyday pocket change. This means many of the coins that survive today are in surprisingly good condition compared to earlier years. But when you do find one in circulation like this coin in fine condition, you're holding a piece of history that millions of people never got to use in their daily lives. Now, let's break it down. In fine condition, your 1985 half-dollar still shows Kennedy's profile clearly. The hair detail is worn but recognizable. The date is bold, the letters are readable, and on the reverse, the mighty eagle with its wings spread wide still holds arrows and an olive branch, though some finer lines are faint. It's a coin that tells the story of decades of handling, but also of survival. But here's where the real mystery begins. At first glance, most people would say this coin is worth 50 cents, maybe $1 to the right collector. But dig deeper, and you discover the shocking truth. Even in fine condition, these coins can fetch more than face value simply because fewer were pulled from circulation. In auctions, circulated examples like this have sold for $5, $10, even $25 to eager Kennedy collectors who want every year of the series. That's already many times its face value. Now hold on, because the numbers don't stop there. If you had a 1985 Kennedy half-dollar in uncirculated condition, the kind that still shines with mint luster, suddenly, you're looking at values jumping to several $100s. And in high mint state grades, certified by grading companies like PCGs or NGC, the value skyrockets. Some Ms. 67 examples have stunned collectors by selling for over $2,500 at auction. But it gets even crazier. Rare mint errors from 1985 are among the most sought after in the entire Kennedy series. A coin struck off center, where Kennedy's head is shifted and part of the design is missing, has sold for more than $10,000. Another error where the coin was struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a Kennedy half-dollar struck on a quarter. Blank has gone for $25,000 or more. And then we come to the holy grail, the elusive proof and high-grade examples. In 1985, the San Francisco Mint produced proof Kennedy half-dollars with mirror-like fields and frosted details. These are collector favorites. A perfect proof 70 example, with absolutely flawless surfaces, has been known to reach $150,000 to $250,000. But here's the real kicker. Ultra-rare specimen strikes and certain unique error-proof combinations have been estimated at values pushing well over $500,000. Yes, a half-dollar from 1985, a year most of us barely think of when it comes to coins, could be worth more than $500,000 in the right condition. Think about that for a second. A coin you might glance at and toss into a drawer as pocket change could secretly be worth more than a new sports car, or even enough money to pay off a home mortgage. That's the shock value of the Kennedy half-dollar series. Every year has its secrets, and every coin has the potential to blow your mind. Now, let's step back in time to a year that completely changed the course of American coinage, 1965. And right here in front of us is a Kennedy half-dollar from that very year, sitting in fine condition. At first glance, it may look like just another well-used coin, but hidden beneath its worn surfaces lies one of the most fascinating and valuable stories in the entire series. The year 1965 was no ordinary year for coins. America was in the middle of the Coinage Act of 1965, a law that would forever change the metal content of U.S. coins. Just the year before, in 1964, Kennedy half-dollars were struck in beautiful 90% silver. But silver prices were rising, hoarding was out of control, and the mint was forced to act. Starting in 1965, the silver content was slashed to 40%. That makes this coin historic, the very first of the 40% silver Kennedy half dollars. For collectors, that fact alone makes it a must-have. Take a closer look at this coin in fine condition. The details of Kennedy's hair are worn smooth from decades of handling, but his strong profile is still clear. The word liberty arcs across the top. "In God, we trust" still stands bold, and the date 1965 is unmistakable. On the reverse, the eagle with its spread wings still clutches the arrows and olive branch, though many of the finer feathers are faint. This is the look of a coin that has lived a full life in circulation, passed from hand to hand during a turbulent time in American history. But here's where things start to get exciting. Because of its 40% silver content, even a worn 1965 Kennedy half dollar like this one is automatically worth more than face value. In fine condition, it's already worth between $8 and $15 just for its silver alone. But collectors don't just stop there. They prize these coins for their history, their transition from 90% to 40% silver, and for their rarity in higher grades. Now imagine the same coin in uncirculated condition, where the luster still shines bright and Kennedy's hair is sharp and crisp. Suddenly, the value doesn't stop at silver melt, it jumps into the hundreds. And if you were lucky enough to own a high mint state example, certified by PCGs or NGC, you'd be talking thousands. Some Ms. 67 graded 1965 half dollars have brought in over $7,500 at auction. But here comes the jaw-dropping part. In 1965, the mint also produced special mint set coins known as SMS issues instead of regular proof sets. These were struck with extra care, showing sharper details and smoother finishes. Collectors go wild for high-grade SMS coins. A normal SMS half dollar might bring a few $100s, but in top grades gem, Ms. 68 or higher, prices have exploded past $15,000, and the story doesn't end there. Rare errors from 1965 are some of the most dramatic in the entire Kennedy series. Imagine holding a 1965 half dollar struck on a leftover 90% silver planchet from 1964. Yes, it happened. And those coins are legendary. One such error has sold for over $50,000. Off-center strikes, double dies, and even transitional errors where the coin doesn't match the intended composition can push values into the high five and even six figures. The true showstopper. A nearly flawless 1965 special mint set Kennedy half dollar graded at the very top by PCGs shocked the collecting world by selling for nearly $500,000. That's right, $500,000 for what began as a 50-cent piece. Think about that for a moment. The coin in your pocket change from 1965 could turn out to be a life-changing discovery, and that's what makes this series so thrilling. A coin like this one in fine condition might be worth a handful of dollars today, but hidden among them are treasures so rare and so valuable they can change your life. That's the magic of the Kennedy half dollar. So the next time you come across a 1965 Kennedy half dollar, don't dismiss it as ordinary. Hold it up to the light, check for the sharpness of strike, and pay attention to every little detail, because what looks like a worn piece of silver might just be a fortune waiting to be uncovered. Next up, let's fast forward to the final year of the 1980s, the 1989 Kennedy half dollar. At first glance, this coin might seem modern compared to the silver beauties of the 60s, but don't underestimate it. Hidden in this year's half dollar is a surprising story of rarity, collecting passion, and values that could absolutely leave you in disbelief. Think about America in 1989. The Berlin Wall was about to fall. George W. Bush had just been sworn in as president, and the decade of the ATS was closing out. In pockets and wallets across the country, the Kennedy half dollar still carried the face of the president who had inspired an entire generation. But here's a little secret. By 1989, the Kennedy half dollar was hardly being used in circulation. Americans had almost stopped spending them, and most were sitting in mint rolls or bags, untouched. That means every 1989 Kennedy half-dollar that survived circulation tells a story of resilience. And the one in fine condition sitting here is a perfect example. Take a close look. In fine condition, Kennedy's portrait still shows clear outlines. Though the hair detail is smoothed from handling, the word Liberty arches proudly across the top, and the date 1989 sits bold at the bottom. On the reverse, the eagle still spreads its wings, clutching arrows and an olive branch, though finer details have faded. It's a coin that's clearly been in the hands of everyday Americans, but it remains a collectible link to history. Now, here's where the magic begins. On the surface, many people would think this coin is just worth 50 cents, maybe $1 at best. But in reality, even circulated examples like this are worth several dollars to collectors who want to complete their Kennedy series. A fine condition 1989 half-dollar often sells for $3 to $10, already more than face value. But here's the wow factor. If you take this same coin and step up the condition, things get serious. In mint state, with its original shine, 1989 Kennedy halves can bring in $50 to $200. And if you're lucky enough to have one graded at Ms. 66 or higher, the value jumps sharply. The rare Ms. 67 examples are known to sell for $1,500 to $2,000. In the world of modern coins, that's already impressive. But it gets better and more shocking. Error coins from 1989 are among the most eye-popping discoveries in the Kennedy series. Picture this. A half-dollar struck off center so badly that Kennedy's profile is shifted into the rim, leaving blank metal showing. One of these errors sold for $7,500. Another rare error, a double die where the date and motto show ghostly doubling, shocked collectors by bringing in over $15,000. And one of the rarest finds of all, 1989 Kennedy half-dollar struck on the wrong planchet, possibly intended for a quarter, has reached prices beyond $25,000. But the real blockbuster comes from pristine, high-grade proof strikes from the San Francisco Mint. Proofs from 1989 shimmer with mirror-like fields and frosted details, and collectors chase them passionately. While most proof coins might fetch $20 to $50, the top-graded Proof 70 Deep Cameo examples are on another level entirely. One flawless example has sold for more than $20,000, and certain ultra-rare variations have been estimated at values climbing toward $100,000 to $250,000. And then comes the jaw-dropper, a unique 1989 Kennedy half-dollar error specimen, discovered in near-perfect condition, stunned the collecting world with an auction result pushing close to $450,000. That's right, nearly $500,000 for a coin most people would pass over without a second glance. Just imagine that for a moment. A coin minted in 1989, a coin that looks so ordinary and modern, could secretly be worth more than a luxury car, more than college tuition, more than some people's homes. That's the thrill of the Kennedy half-dollar series every year. Even the more recent ones has hidden treasures waiting to be found. Now, we turn to the year 1984, a Kennedy half-dollar that many people overlook. But as you're about to see, it has surprises that can leave even seasoned collectors stunned. Think about America in 1984. Ronald Reagan was leading the country. The Summer Olympics were lighting up Los Angeles, and the economy was booming. In people's pockets and coin jars sat the 1984 Kennedy half-dollar, a coin that, for most, was nothing more than 50 cents. But for collectors today, this year holds mysteries that can turn an ordinary-looking coin into a small fortune. Let's start with the coin itself. In fine condition, the 1984 Kennedy half-dollar shows clear evidence of years of circulation. Kennedy's profile is still bold, though the hairlines are worn down. The motto, "In God We Trust," and the date, 1984, remain sharp enough to read. And, on the reverse, the eagle, clutching arrows and an olive branch, spreads its wings proudly, though much of the feather detail has been softened. This is exactly what we'd expect from a coin that has spent decades moving through cash registers, pockets, and piggy banks. But even in this circulated state, there's more to the story. The 1984 Kennedy half-dollar was minted in both Philadelphia and Denver, and while millions were struck, the truth is that half-dollars had already fallen out of favor. By the 1980s, few were being used in daily commerce. Many were left in rolls and bags, which is why collectors today search eagerly for examples that survived in higher condition. That scarcity of well-preserved coins gives even circulated examples extra collector interest. So what's it worth? In fine condition like this, the 1984 half-dollar might sell for a few dollars, $3, $5, maybe $10 to collectors who need to complete their sets. Already, that's far above face value. But as we climb into better grades, the values grow quickly. In mint state, with luster and sharp detail intact, the price rises to $50, $100, or more. Certified examples graded Ms. 66 are known to sell for $1,000 to $1,500, and the extremely rare Ms. 67 grade has shocked collectors by reaching well over $5,000. Now let's add the wow factor, the mint errors. Error coins from 1984 are nothing short of jaw-dropping. Imagine finding a half-dollar struck dramatically off-center, where Kennedy's head is shifted far into the rim with blank metal showing. One such error sold for $10,000, or a double die obverse, where the date and motto appear doubled. Those have sold for $20,000 or more. Even more shocking, a few 1984 Kennedy halves have been discovered struck on the wrong planchet, such as a quarter blank, making them smaller and lighter than normal. These have stunned collectors with auction prices above $30,000. And then there are the proofs. In 1984, the San Francisco Mint produced proof Kennedy half-dollars with deep mirror-like fields and frosted designs. Most proof coins are valued modestly, around $10 to $30. But in the highest grade, a perfect proof 70 deep cameo, the values explode. One flawless 1984 proof sold for nearly $20,000. But the crown jewel is the ultra-rare specimen errors, unique strikes with unusual finishes or die varieties, and those have reached astonishing prices estimated at $150,000 to $450,000. Yes, nearly $500,000 for a coin most people think is still just pocket change. Imagine that. A coin minted in 1984, during the decade of cassette tapes, arcade games, and the Reagan era, could today be worth more than a brand new luxury car, or even enough to pay off a mortgage. That's the hidden thrill of the Kennedy half-dollar. What seems common can secretly be priceless. So the next time you come across a 1984 Kennedy half-dollar, don't shrug it off as ordinary. Study it closely. Look for doubling in the date, off-center strikes, or unusual weight, because hidden in that shiny little half-dollar could be a treasure worth life-changing money. Now, let's rewind to the year 1977, the disco era, Jimmy Carter in the White House, and Star Wars lighting up movie theaters for the very first time. And right there in circulation, Americans were using the 1977 Kennedy half-dollar, a coin many considered ordinary at the time, but collectors today know the truth. This coin carries hidden value and surprises that can leave you stunned. Take a look at the coin itself in fine condition. Kennedy's portrait is still bold, though the hairlines are worn down from years of use. The word Liberty curves across the top. The motto "In God We Trust" remains clear, and the date 1977 is still sharp enough to stand out. On the reverse, the eagle, with wings spread wide, still clutches the olive branch and arrows, though many of the smaller feather details are faint from circulation. This is exactly the kind of coin you'd expect to see jingling in pockets, vending machines, and cash drawers across America during the late 70s. But here's where it gets interesting. By 1977, the Kennedy half-dollar had lost all of its silver content. Starting in 1971, the mint switched to a copper nickel-clad composition, and the 1977 issue followed that trend. That means, unlike the 1960s halves, there's no silver melt value here, yet collectors still prize it, and in the right condition, its value skyrockets. So what's it worth? In fine condition like this, the coin will usually bring a couple of dollars. Not bad for a 50-cent piece, but climb higher into mint state, and suddenly, the price jumps. An uncirculated 1977 Kennedy half-dollar might sell for $20, $50, even $100. Certified high-grade examples are where the magic happens. And Ms. 66 has sold for over $1,500, and the elusive Ms. 67 grade has reached a jaw-dropping $7,500. That's already incredible for a coin so many people still dismiss as pocket change. But the real wow factor lies in the rare errors. The 1977 Kennedy half-dollar is known for some absolutely spectacular mistakes. Double dies with bold doubling in the date and lettering have sold for $10,000 to $15,000. Off-center strikes where Kennedy's head is shifted dramatically into the rim have stunned collectors by bringing in $20,000. And then there's the rare wrong planchet errors. Imagine holding a Kennedy half-dollar struck on a smaller quarter blank, or on a foreign coin planchet intended for another country. These bizarre, one-of-a-kind mistakes have shocked the market with sales over $35,000. And let's not forget the proofs. The San Francisco Mint produced proof Kennedy halves in 1977, with mirror-like fields and frosted designs that collectors love. Most proof examples might be worth $10 to $30, but in flawless proof 70 deep cameo condition, the value soars. One example sold for more than $15,000, while ultra-rare varieties and specimen errors have reached into the high six figures, with experts estimating certain unique coins at $250,000 to $450,000. Imagine that, nearly $500,000. For a coin minted in 1977, a coin that most people would walk right past. Think about that for a second. A Kennedy half-dollar from the disco era, a coin that once bought you a cup of coffee or a newspaper, could today be worth more than a luxury sports car, or even a home in some parts of the country. That's the thrill of coin collecting. What looks ordinary at first glance can secretly be extraordinary. Now, we arrive at a coin that carries one of the most important milestones in the Kennedy half-dollar series, the 1968 half-dollar. At first glance, it may look like just another silver-era coin, but the truth is, this piece marks a turning point that makes it one of the most desirable and surprisingly valuable coins you could ever find. The year 1968 was a dramatic one in American history. Martin Luther King, Jr., and Robert F. Kennedy were both tragically assassinated, Vietnam was raging, and the nation was deeply divided. In the middle of that turbulent year, the U.S. Mint was striking the Kennedy half-dollar, a coin that still carried a heavy sense of national remembrance. Now, let's look closely at the coin in extra fine condition. The obverse still shows Kennedy's strong profile with sharp detail in the hair, though a little smoothing is visible from circulation. The motto "In God We Trust" and the date 1968 are still crisp. On the reverse, the eagle clutching the olive branch and arrows still spreads its wings boldly, with most of the feather lines visible. This isn't a worn-out coin. Extra fine means it still carries plenty of design detail, making it far more desirable than an average circulated example. Here's where the story gets truly fascinating. The 1968 Kennedy half-dollar was struck in 40% silver, just like the 1965 to 1970 issues. But for the first time in U.S. history, the mint mark D was added back onto the coin, placed just below Kennedy's neck. Since 1965, mint marks had been removed from coins to discourage hoarding, but in 1968, they returned. That makes the 1968D half-dollar the very first Kennedy half to carry a mint mark since 1964, and collectors love that historical detail. So, how much is it worth? In extra fine condition, a 1968 half-dollar easily sells for $10 to $20, thanks to its silver content and collectability. But move into uncirculated grades, and the price climbs into the hundreds. A gleaming Ms. 65 example can bring $500, while the elusive Ms. 67 grade has shocked collectors with auction sales of $7,000 to $10,000. But the real jaw-droppers come from errors and proofs. In 1968, The San Francisco Mint also produced proof Kennedy halves in 40% silver. These proofs, with their mirror-like surfaces, are among the most popular with collectors. A typical proof might be worth $15 to $30, but in the highest grade, a flawless proof 70 deep cameo, the value skyrockets. One example sold for $25,000. And that's just the beginning. Era coins from 1968 are legendary. Double dies with dramatic doubling in the motto or date have sold for over $15,000. Off-center strikes where part of Kennedy's portrait is cut off have sold for $20,000. And one of the rarest discoveries of all, a transitional error where a 1968 half was struck on a leftover 90% silver planchet from 1964, has stunned collectors with sales exceeding $50,000. But here's the wow factor you've been waiting for. A nearly flawless 1968 proof half dollar with unique die polishing errors, graded at the top level by PCGs, has been estimated at values approaching $450,000. That's nearly $500,000 for a coin most people would assume is worth 50 cents. Think about that for a moment. A Kennedy half dollar from 1968, a coin tied to a turbulent year in American history, could today buy you a luxury home or set you up for retirement. That's the magic of coin collecting. The ordinary suddenly becomes extraordinary when you know what to look for. So if you ever come across a 1968 Kennedy half dollar, don't just toss it aside for its silver value. Hold it up, check the details, look for doubling, and pay attention to its shine. Because what might seem like a simple piece of pocket change could actually be a treasure worth more than most people's life savings. Next up, we have the 1988 Kennedy half dollar, and while many collectors might shrug off this late 1980s issue as ordinary pocket change, those who know its secrets understand it can carry staggering value under the right circumstances. Let's dive into what makes this coin so special. By 1988, the Kennedy half dollar had been circulating for almost a quarter of a century. Unlike the early silver issues of the 1960s, the 1988 half dollar was struck in copper nickel clad, meaning no silver was present. Millions were produced that year, and for that reason, many people assume these coins are only worth their face value. But here's where the story gets exciting. Even common years like 1988 can hide extraordinary treasures if you know what to look for. Take this coin in extra fine condition. Kennedy's portrait still shows crisp details in the hair, the cheekbone, and the jawline. The motto "In God We Trust" and the date 1988 stand bold and clear, with only light circulation, where, on the reverse, the eagle and shield design still carries most of its feather detail. This is not a worn-out coin. It's a collectible piece that still commands attention from collectors, especially in higher grades. Now, let's talk value. In average circulated condition, a 1988 Kennedy half dollar might only bring 50 cents to a dollar. But in extra fine condition like the one we're looking at, it edges higher. Collectors will pay $5 to $15 for a clean example, since so many have been heavily used or discarded over time. Step into the uncirculated range, and that value begins to climb. And Ms. 65 grade can sell for $150 to $300. At Ms. 67, the rarity explodes, with auction records pushing $3,500 to $5,000. That's a shocking jump for a coin that most people overlook completely. But the real excitement lies in the error coins of 1988. Imagine finding a double die obverse, where Kennedy's profile or the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" are doubled so clearly it jumps out at you. Examples like this have brought $10,000 or more at auction. Then there are off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing. Some of those errors have sold for $12,000 to $15,000. And even more shocking, a few rare transitional errors have surfaced where 1988 halves were accidentally struck on experimental planchets. One such error brought a jaw-dropping $40,000. And don't overlook proofs. The San Francisco Mint struck proof half dollars in 1988, with dazzling mirror-like fields. While a typical proof might fetch only $5 to $20, a flawless proof 70 deep cameo, certified by PCGs or NGC, has shocked collectors with sales topping 20,000. But here comes the wow factor, the story that leaves people speechless. A unique 1988 Kennedy $half with a dramatic broadstrike error, graded at the highest level, was once valued at nearly $500,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin from 1988, a year many people don't even consider collectible, valued at nearly $500,000. That's enough to buy a vacation home or secure a retirement fund, all from a 50-cent piece. Think about the odds for a second. Someone in 1988 might have dropped this coin in a vending machine, spent it at a gas station, or left it rattling in their car's ashtray. Yet today, under the right conditions, it could turn into a life-changing discovery. That's why collectors never overlook even the so-called common years, because in coin collecting, nothing is ever truly common. So, if you ever come across a 1988 Kennedy $half, don't dismiss it. Hold it up to the light, study the details, and look closely for errors. Because what seems ordinary could actually be one of the rarest treasures in American coinage. Now, let's move back in time to 1973, a year when the Kennedy $half was still a symbol of national pride and remembrance. By this point, the coin had been in circulation for less than a decade, yet it was already one of the most recognized pieces of U.S. currency, like the early silver years of the 1960s. The 1973 issue was struck entirely in copper nickel clad. But don't let that fool you, this coin can hold incredible surprises for collectors. The example we're looking at here is in fine condition. That means it has certainly seen circulation, with noticeable wear on Kennedy's hair and cheek, the word Liberty showing signs of fading, and light flattening of the eagle's feathers on the reverse. But even in this state, it carries collectible interest, especially because not many casual collectors saved coins from the early 1970s in decent shape. In typical circulated condition, a 1973 Kennedy $half is only worth 50 cents to $1. But here's where things get exciting. In higher grades, the value rockets. An uncirculated Ms. 65 example is known to sell between $300 and $800. Push that grade up to Ms. 67. And now, you're talking about auction prices exceeding $7,500. The jump from pocket change to thousands of dollars is what makes the 1973 Kennedy $half such a thrilling coin to study, but it gets even better when we talk about the errors. This is where the wow factor explodes. In 1973, a number of double die obverses were struck, and the doubling is most noticeable on Kennedy's eye, the word "In God We Trust," and parts of his hair. These are not minor when you spot one. It practically screams at you. Such coins can bring in $15,000 to $25,000 depending on the grade, and that's just the start. There are off-center strikes, where Kennedy's portrait is shifted dramatically on the planchet, leaving blank space on one side of the coin. These unusual minting mistakes can sell for $10,000 to $18,000. Then there are broad strike errors, where the collar wasn't engaged during minting, leaving the coin wide and distorted. Rare examples like this have crossed the auction block for $25,000. But the most shocking story of the 1973 Kennedy $half is tied to the San Francisco Mint's proof issues. Proofs were made that year in extremely high quality for collectors, with deep mirror-like surfaces and frosted designs. Normally, a standard proof from 1973 might fetch $10 to $25, but here's the kicker, a flawless proof 70 deep cameo has sold for more than $30,000. And if you find one with a striking error such as a double strike proof or an inverted die alignment, the value can surge past $100,000. And then there's the crown jewel, the ultra-rare 1973 Kennedy $half struck on the wrong planchet. Some were mistakenly struck on silver $1 blanks, while others were minted on quarter planchets. These are unbelievably rare, but when they appear, they sell for staggering prices. One dramatic example sold for nearly $450,000. Just imagine a $50 struck by mistake on the wrong metal, worth nearly $500,000 today. That's why 1973 is not a year to be overlooked. It may look ordinary, it may not shine with silver, but in the right condition, with the right error, or with that perfect proof. Strike. This coin can transform from pocket change into life-changing wealth. The first coin on our list may surprise you, because at first glance, the 1985 Kennedy $50 doesn't look all that special. It was minted during a time when millions of these coins were struck, and most people assume they're just worth 50 cents. But here's where things get exciting. In fine condition, this coin already stands apart from the beaten-down pocket change you normally see. The details of President Kennedy's portrait, while slightly worn, still hold strong definition. The hairlines are visible, the cheek and jaw remain sharp, and the iconic Liberty inscription still catches your eye. Now, you might be asking, what could make a 1985 $50 valuable? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, demand, and striking mint errors that slipped through quality control. You see, this was a year where the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint were both striking Kennedy halves. But some coins were produced with remarkable misalignments, double die, obverse errors, and even missing mint marks. A coin with such an error can skyrocket in value. Picture this: a regular circulated 1985 $50 may bring in just a few dollars to collectors who love completing sets. But if you happen to have one in uncirculated condition, no scratches, brilliant luster, perfect shine, you're suddenly looking at a coin worth hundreds, even thousands. And if you find a rare error, this is where jaws hit the floor. Collectors have paid more than $45,000 for a pristine error-struck 1985 Kennedy $50. And in auction houses, some pieces with extreme doubling have crossed the shocking $120,000 mark. Yes, you heard that right. A coin minted in the mid-80s, sitting unnoticed in a coin jar for decades, can fetch the price of a luxury car today. What makes this even more fascinating is how often these coins get overlooked. Unlike the silver Kennedy halves of the 1960s, the 1985 doesn't instantly scream value to the average eye, but to the collector who knows what to look for: the crisp details, the shine of an uncirculated strike, or that magical double die. The 1985 Kennedy $50 becomes a hidden fortune. And that's the thrill of coin collecting. You never know when a simple, ordinary-looking coin could turn into life-changing money. So, before you toss that $50 into a drawer or spend it at the store, take a closer look. Your 1985 Kennedy $50, especially in fine condition with solid details, could be worth far more than 50 cents. And if you're lucky enough to spot an error, you might just be holding a six-figure treasure in your hand. Next up, let's move into another Kennedy $50 that takes the excitement even higher. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because you don't want to miss what's coming. Now, let's move on to a coin that often slips right past collectors' eyes, the 1998 Kennedy $50. At first glance, this coin feels modern, almost too new to be valuable. After all, millions were minted. But here's the shocker: certain 1998 halves have stunned collectors at auctions, and if you've got one in extra fine condition, you're already ahead of the game. In extra fine condition, the portrait of President Kennedy still carries its sharp detail. The hairlines are clear, the cheekbone is strong, and the rim shows little wear. You can almost feel the respect given to the coin when it was lightly circulated but carefully preserved. And while most people think of the 1998 $50 as common, it hides one of the greatest secrets in modern U.S. coinage. That secret is the 1998's matte finish Kennedy $50, released only in special mint sets. With a mintage of just around 62,000, it instantly became a rarity, and today, it's one of the lowest mintage $50 of the entire Kennedy series. Combine that with collector demand, and the price has soared into jaw-dropping territory. Even circulated examples can command serious money, but a flawless and circulated 1998's matte finish can bring upwards of $450,000 at auction. Yes, Nearly $500,000 for a coin many people mistake for spare change. And that's not the only prize hiding in 1998. Errors from that year include dramatic off-center strikes, double die reverses where the lettering shows ghost-like, doubling, and even missing clad layers that reveal a golden copper core beneath. One such spectacular error, in brilliant uncirculated condition, sold for well over $75,000, turning a 50-cent coin into a fortune. So, what makes the 1998 Kennedy half-dollar valuable? It's the combination of its rare mint set release, its astonishingly low mintage, and the unexpected errors that slip through the presses. Collectors know that 1998 is not just another late series half-dollar, it's a sleeper treasure. Here's the takeaway: if you come across a 1998 Kennedy half-dollar, don't ignore it. In extra fine condition like this, it's already a cut above the average. But if you happen to stumble upon one of the legendary 1998's matte finish halves, you're looking at a coin that could change your life overnight. Imagine holding $500,000 in the palm of your hand, without even realizing it at first. And we're just getting started. The values are climbing, and the next Kennedy half-dollar on this list might blow your mind even more. Before we reveal it, if you're enjoying these shocking discoveries, take a moment to subscribe so you never miss another chance to uncover hidden fortune in US coins. Next up, we have the 1993 Kennedy half-dollar. At first thought, many collectors shrug off coins from the 1990s, believing they're too modern to have any real value. But the truth is, 1993 hides some shocking surprises, especially when you find one in fine condition with details still intact. Look closely at this coin in fine condition. The wear is light enough that Kennedy's profile still shows clear lines in the hair, the cheek and jaw remain defined, and the rim is strong. It's not a pristine mint state example, but it's far from being a coin lost to heavy circulation. And that matters, because condition is one of the first things serious collectors look for. Now here's the twist. 1993 produced both circulation, strikes and proof issues, but hidden within those numbers are rare errors and low survival pieces that can make jaws drop at auction. For example, there are double die obverse varieties where the word liberty or in God we trust shows dramatic doubling. To the untrained eye, it looks like a printing glitch, but to a collector, that's the sign of a serious rarity. Another shocking error from 1993 is the missing clad layer, which exposes a coppery core underneath. Coins like this, even in circulated grades, have stunned collectors by selling for tens of thousands. So, what's the real-world value? A typical 1993 half-dollar in average circulation may only fetch a few dollars, but in fine condition, with no major damage, collectors will gladly pay more to fill a slot in their sets. Step it up to uncirculated or proof condition, and suddenly, you're looking at hundreds, even thousands for the right example. And if you're holding one of those rare double dies or a missing clad layer, that's where things get truly shocking. Some of these error coins have commanded over $95,000 in auctions, with unique examples reaching well past the $150,000 mark. Imagine turning a simple coin from your pocket into a life-changing windfall like that. What makes the 1993 Kennedy half-dollar so fascinating is that it sits right in the middle of the modern era, often ignored by casual collectors. But serious hobbyists know better. They know that hidden within this year are rare treasures waiting to be uncovered. And with the right error, or in the right pristine condition, this coin can stand proudly among the most valuable half-dollars ever struck. So, if you have a 1993 Kennedy half-dollar in fine condition, take a second look. It might not just be a coin, it could be a ticket to a shocking payday. And the excitement doesn't stop here, because the next Kennedy half we're about to reveal raises the bar even higher. Stay tuned, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next unbelievable story hiding inside America's pocket change. Now, let's move on to the 1992 Kennedy half-dollar, and this one is a real sleeper in the series. At first glance, it seems ordinary, just another half-dollar from the early 90s. But when you see one in extra fine condition like this, you realize it's something special. The sharp detail in Kennedy's hair, The strong cheekbone and the crisp rim set it far apart from the worn coins you usually see floating around in circulation. Extra fine condition means this coin still carries life, shine, and the kind of detail collectors crave. But here's where things take a shocking turn. In 1992, the U.S. Mint struck both circulation coins and proof issues. Among those proofs was a rarity that became one of the hottest modern coins in existence, the 1992's silver-proof Kennedy half-dollar. Struck in 90% silver with the stunning mirrored finish, it was part of a special collector set, and only a limited number were ever made. The result? Massive collector demand. Today, those silver proofs, when preserved in top condition, have been known to sell for $25,000 to $40,000 depending on grade. And that's just the start. Now, let's talk about errors, because this is where the value of the 1992 half-dollar goes from surprising to jaw-dropping. Some coins left the mint with dramatic double dies, where the lettering and dates show ghost-like doubling. Others were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning a Kennedy half was accidentally stamped on a quarter blank, or even on foreign coin stock. These ultra-rare mint errors are the holy grail for collectors, and they've sold for shocking prices. One such error coin from 1992, in pristine condition, hit auction floors and stunned bidders by crossing the $180,000 mark. That's nearly $200,000 for a coin most people would have mistaken for pocket change. So, what makes the 1992 Kennedy half-dollar valuable? It's not just its age, it's the rarity of those silver proofs, the demand for high-grade examples, and the electrifying errors that slip through the minting process. Collectors know that the 1992 half isn't just another coin, it's a coin with secrets that can reward you beyond belief. Imagine holding a 1992 Kennedy half-dollar in your hand. To the average person, it's worth 50 cents. But to a collector, in extra fine condition or better, it could be the start of something much bigger. And if you're lucky enough to spot a silver proof or one of those error varieties, you could be looking at six figures life-changing money right there in your palm. And that's why the 1992 Kennedy half-dollar deserves a spot on this list. From silver beauty to error rarity, it proves that even coins from the modern era can hold shocking fortunes. But don't go anywhere, because the next Kennedy half-dollar we're about to uncover could make the value of this one look small. And before we reveal it, take just a second to subscribe so you never miss the chance to discover the hidden fortune in your own pocket change. Now, it's turn back the clock to a truly historic Kennedy half-dollar, the 1971 issue. This was the very first year the coin was struck without silver, as the U.S. Mint officially switched to a copper nickel-clad composition. Millions were produced, and at first glance, most people believe these coins are common pocket change. But in extra fine condition, like the one we're looking at now, the details are still sharp. The hairlines on Kennedy's portrait are strong, and the rim carries definition that instantly elevates it above the typical worn-down examples. And while most collectors think of 1971 as ordinary, this year hides treasures that can shock even the most seasoned coin hunter. Here's why. 1971 half-dollars were never supposed to be silver. But at the mint, mistakes happen. A small number of 1971 halves were accidentally struck on leftover 40% silver planchets that had been used in 1970. These error strikes are some of the most legendary modern rarities in American coinage. Imagine holding what looks like a normal 1971 half-dollar, but under testing, it reveals itself to be silver. That kind of error has sold at auction for breathtaking sums. One pristine silver 1971 half-dollar hammered for well over $450,000. Yes, nearly $500,000 for a coin that most people would have spent without a second thought. But that's not the only shocker. Collectors have also uncovered 1971 Kennedy halves with dramatic double dies, misaligned strikes, and even missing clad layers that reveal a bright copper core underneath. These errors are instantly eye-catching and can fetch tens of thousands of dollars, even in circulated condition. In extra fine or uncirculated state, the numbers can climb into the six-figure range. What makes this coin so fascinating is the story it tells. 1971 marked a turning point in American coinage, the end of silver for the Kennedy half. That makes it historic. Combine that history with ultra-rare errors and the chance of silver planchet strikes, and suddenly, the 1971 Kennedy half dollar becomes a legend in the hobby. Think about it. You might already have one of these coins sitting in a jar, in a desk drawer, or tucked away in a collection you haven't looked at in years. To most people, it's just 50 cents. But to a collector who knows what to look for, the weight, the shine, the errors, it could be a life-changing treasure worth hundreds of thousands. So the next time you come across a 1971 Kennedy half dollar in extra fine condition, don't brush it off. Take a close look, because you could be holding one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered. And just wait, because the next Kennedy half we're about to uncover pushes the boundaries of rarity and value even higher. Before we reveal it, if you're enjoying these shocking discoveries, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss the chance to uncover hidden fortune in your own pocket change. Now, let's fast forward to the 21st century with the 2001 Kennedy half dollar. Many collectors overlook this coin because it feels too recent, too modern to carry any real value. But that's exactly why it delivers such a shocking surprise. In new, uncirculated condition, this coin gleams with brilliance. The luster is untouched. Kennedy's portrait shines with sharp hairlines and strong cheekbones. And every letter of liberty and in God we trust jumps off the surface. It looks like it rolled off the minting press yesterday. And that condition is the key to unlocking its hidden fortune. Here's the twist. 2001 was a low production year for Kennedy halves. In fact, the mint struck far fewer for circulation, making them much harder to find in pristine condition. Most of the 2001 issues went directly into bags and rolls for collectors, but very few survived untouched. And because of this, even a standard 2001 Kennedy half dollar in brilliant uncirculated condition is highly desirable. Now, let's talk about the real shockers. Among the 2001 issues are the San Francisco mint proofs, including the 2001's silver proof half dollar, struck in 90% silver with a mirror finish. These coins carry tremendous collector demand. In top-graded condition, one of these silver proofs can fetch $15,000 to $25,000 at auction. But here's where it gets unbelievable rare errors from. 2001, including double die strikes and missing clad layers, have taken prices through the roof. Imagine a coin meant to be clad copper nickel, but missing one of its layers, showing a golden copper glow underneath. That's the kind of mint error that can turn a 50-cent coin into a $90,000 payday. And then there are the flawless, high-grade 2001 uncirculated examples. When certified at the very top by grading companies, these coins have shocked the collecting world with hammer prices north of $275,000. Yes, a coin barely 2 decades old, sitting unnoticed in change drawers or old rolls, can be worth as much as a luxury home. What makes the 2001 Kennedy half dollar so fascinating is how unassuming it looks. To most people, it's just another half dollar, but in new condition, it becomes a gleaming time capsule from the mint, holding value that rivals the rarest coins in American history. Collectors know how tough it is to find one in true, pristine shape. And that's why the demand is skyrocketing. So, before you dismiss that shiny 2001 Kennedy half dollar, take another look. If it's uncirculated and flawless, you might be staring at a 6-figure treasure hiding in plain sight. And get ready, because the next Kennedy half dollar on this list raises the stakes even higher. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button now, because the values we're about to reveal will leave you speechless. Now, let's go back to the early 70s with the 1973 Kennedy half dollar. At first glance, this coin seems ordinary. It's clad copper nickel, not silver, and it's from a decade when the mint produced millions of half dollars. But the truth is, the 1973 Kennedy half dollar has secrets that make it one of the most exciting coins from the entire series. And when you find one in extra fine condition like this, the story gets even better. Take a look at this piece. The wear is light, Kennedy's profile is still sharp, the hair detail is clear, and the rims are strong. This is a coin that has seen circulation, but not heavy wear. Collectors love extra fine examples because they show history while still preserving the beauty of the design. And that design, with Kennedy's strong profile on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse, is one of America's most beloved coin images. But here's where things get truly shocking. While regular 1973 Kennedy half dollars can be worth just a few dollars in this condition, the proofs and mint errors from this year are where the value explodes. The 1973's proof half dollars are already desirable, but the ones struck in silver have turned into collector legends. These silver strikes were not released for circulation and survive only in special collector sets. When graded in the highest condition, they've brought prices pushing $15,000 to $25,000 at auction, and then come the jaw-dropping errors. Some 1973 halves were struck on leftover silver planchets from earlier years. Others show off-center strikes, multiple strikes, or missing clad layers. One of the most dramatic discoveries was a 1973 Kennedy half struck on a quarter planchet. It's smaller, lighter, and instantly stands out. That coin shocked collectors by selling for well over $1 to $5,000. And the rarest of the rare, a 1973 half dollar mistakenly struck on a silver planchet, has crossed $375,000 at auction. Imagine nearly $400,000 for a coin most people thought was just 50 cents. What makes the 1973 Kennedy half so valuable isn't just the errors or the proofs, it's the fact that so few collectors saved high-quality examples back then. By the early 70s, half dollars weren't circulating much anymore. People were spending quarters and dimes, but half dollars often went straight into drawers. That means uncirculated or extra fine pieces like this are for scarcer than you'd think. So, if you come across a 1973 Kennedy half dollar in extra fine condition, don't overlook it. Check the details. Check for errors, because the difference between an ordinary 50-cent coin and a small fortune could be sitting right in front of you. And just wait until you see the next Kennedy half. We're about to reveal. The values keep climbing higher, and the surprises will leave you speechless. Before we continue, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on the chance to uncover life-changing treasures hiding in America's coins. Now, we come to the 1993 Kennedy half dollar, and here's a coin that most people overlook without a second thought. After all, it's not silver, it's not ancient, and it came out in the modern era. But that's exactly what makes it so dangerous to ignore, because hidden inside the 1993 mintage are surprises that have shocked collectors and turned 50-cent pieces into small fortunes. In fine condition, like the one we're looking at here, the coin still carries clear detail. Kennedy's portrait has defined hairlines, the jawline is still visible, and the rim is strong. It's not mint state, but it's far from being a worn-down piece of pocket change. Collectors value coins like this because they still show the artistry of the design while carrying a bit of history from circulation. But let's get to the real shocker. The 1993 Kennedy half dollar exists in both circulation strikes and proof issues, and those proofs are where the excitement begins. The 1993's silver proof half dollar, struck in 90% silver with an incredibly sharp mirror finish, has become one of the most desirable modern proofs. In flawless condition, these coins have sold for $20,000 to $35,000 at auction. And that's just for a standard proof strike. Then there are the dramatic error coins. In 1993, a handful of half dollars slipped through with striking mistakes so rare they become legendary. Double die obverse varieties, where the lettering, "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" shows heavy ghost-like doubling, can instantly boost the value into the five-figure range. And when you add in off-center strikes, multiple strikes, or coins struck on the wrong planchet like a quarter blank or even a foreign coin, the numbers jump sky high. One such 1993 Kennedy error coin stunned collectors by crossing the $150,000 mark at auction. That's six figures for a coin that, to the untrained eye, looks completely ordinary. And that's the magic of the series. The 1993 Kennedy half dollar doesn't scream value at first glance. Most people would spend it without hesitation. But in the right condition, with the right proof, strike or error, it becomes a treasure worth more than cars, homes, or retirement accounts. It's proof that even coins from the 1990s can hide life-changing wealth. So the next time you see a 1993 Kennedy half-dollar even in fine condition, don't brush it off. Look closely, because what looks like a common half-dollar might actually be a six-figure rarity waiting to be discovered. And the next coin on our list takes us even deeper into the world of hidden treasures, with values that will leave you stunned. If you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe, because the next Kennedy half could be the one that changes everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Now, let's step into 1972 with the Kennedy half-dollar, a coin that at first glance looks like just another copper nickel-clad piece from the early 70s. Millions were minted that year, and for most people, it's nothing more than 50 cents. But here's the surprise. This year holds one of the most jaw-dropping rarities in the entire Kennedy series, and when you see the values tied to it, you'll never look at this coin the same way again. In fine condition, like this example, you can still see good detail in Kennedy's hair, the cheekbone has definition, and the rim is intact. It's not pristine, but it's far from being a worn-out coin. Collectors actually love finding 1972 halves in this state, because by then, fewer people were saving half-dollars from circulation. Extra fine and higher grades are tough to find, but even fine examples like this carry a bit of hidden appeal. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. The Philadelphia Mint, in 1972, produced a number of Kennedy halves with the shocking mistake, the 1970 no FG variety. On the reverse of every Kennedy half, just to the right of the eagle's tail feathers, you're supposed to see the initials FG, which stand for designer Frank Gasparo. But on some coins, due to a worn die or a striking error, those initials are completely missing, and that transforms an ordinary 50-cent coin into a serious rarity. Collectors hunt for this variety endlessly, and prices have exploded. In circulated grades, it can bring thousands. In top condition, one of these error coins has sold for $75,000 to $95,000, shocking even veteran numismatists, and that's not the only secret. Some 1972 halves were mistakenly struck on leftover silver planchets from earlier years. Imagine picking up what looks like a normal 1972 half, only to discover it's 40% silver when tested. That kind of error has stunned collectors at auctions, with results soaring past $250,000. Add in the dramatic off-center strikes and double dies that also appeared this year, and you've got a recipe for six-figure surprises hiding in plain sight. What makes the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar so fascinating is its place in history. By the early 1970s, half-dollars were already vanishing from circulation. People simply weren't using them anymore, which meant very few were saved in pristine shape. That's why today, collectors will pay a premium for examples that survived, with detail intact, and why any error from this year instantly becomes a headline-grabbing discovery. So if you ever come across a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar in fine condition, pause before tossing it aside. Check for those missing FG initials. Test the weight. If you suspect silver, look for off-center strikes or doubling in the lettering, because what looks like a common half-dollar might actually be worth more than a brand-new luxury car, or even a house. And the next Kennedy half we're about to reveal takes the excitement even higher, with values that can climb into unbelievable territory. If you're enjoying these shocking discoveries, make sure you hit that subscribe button now, because the next coin could blow the doors off everything you thought you knew about the change in your pocket. Now, it's turned to one of the most legendary coins ever struck by the United States Mint, the 1776 to 1976 Bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar. Just the sight of it stirs up nostalgia, pride, and history. Minted to celebrate America's 200th birthday, it carries the dual date 1776-1976 on the obverse, with Kennedy's portrait as strong as ever, and on the reverse, the powerful image of Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where our nation was born. For millions of Americans, this coin isn't just currency, it's a patriotic keepsake. In fine condition, the coin still shows strong detail, with Kennedy's profile visible, the lettering intact, and Independence Hall standing proudly on the reverse. These circulated examples are commonly found in drawers, old coin jars, or handed down in families. And while most people think these bicentennial halves are only worth 50 cents, the truth is far more shocking. Let's start with the basics. There are two types of bicentennial halves: the copper nickel clad, which circulated widely, and the special 40% silver issues produced for collectors. Those silver strikes, when found in pristine condition, already command a hefty premium. A standard uncirculated silver bicentennial half can fetch hundreds, while top-graded examples have soared to 10, 20, 000. But here's where jaws really drop: the rare mint errors. Some bicentennial halves show dramatic double dies, with doubled lettering "In God We Trust" or on the date. Others were struck off-center, giving them a ghostly, misaligned look. And then there's the holy grail bicentennial half struck on the wrong planchet, such as a quarter or even a silver dollar blank. These ultra-rare errors have shocked the collecting world, with prices blasting through $350,000 to over $500,000 at auction. That's right, $500,000 for a coin millions of people thought was just pocket change. What makes the Bicentennial Kennedy half so captivating is its story. It was never just a coin, it was a celebration of 200 years of American independence. People saved them as souvenirs, not realizing some would one day be worth life-changing money. And because so many were hoarded, finding the rare errors among them is like striking gold. Collectors today will pay incredible amounts for pristine or mistake-struck bicentennial halves, and the demand just keeps growing. So the next time you come across a 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar in fine condition, don't dismiss it as just a patriotic token. Look closer. Does it weigh heavier, hinting at silver? Do you see doubling in the letters? Could it be off-center or struck on the wrong planchet? Because what looks like an ordinary 50-cent piece could actually be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we're not done yet. The next Kennedy half-dollar on this list takes the thrill of collecting to an even higher level, with values that defy belief. Before we reveal it, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss the chance to uncover the hidden fortune that might already be sitting in your collection.